Hey everybody, this is FightClubHubbs, and I'm here to give you my top 10 games of 2012. Sorry it took so long. I had a little sinus infection thing going on, and I just wanted to wait a little bit and let that pass before I started to make this list. So now, before we get into the list, I actually have a couple things I want to go over. First off, I have a big disappointment I want to mention, and three runner-ups. In fact, the runner-ups are actually something I'm going to dive into right now. So starting off on my runner-ups, the first game is Fez, and reason why this isn't on my list is mainly because I didn't get this game until the end of the year on Xbox. It's an amazing little platforming game, and from what I've played so far, I've really enjoyed. It's a nice, calm, serene type of game, something you can take your time, just enjoy, sit back, and like enjoy the music. The puzzles are very good. The ability to rotate the environment is very unique, and there aren't many platformers out there that do this. The second game on my list is another point-and-click adventure game. I've actually played quite a few of those this year. This one is Botanicula. It came out in the middle of the year. It's a very unique, very artsy point-and-click adventure game, kind of like the non-traditional point-and-click, where there aren't really very many subtle hints. In fact, it kind of forces you to interact with everything that you see. Lots of unique characters. There's no dialogue whatsoever in the game. There's just little type of sound effects that are coming from each individual that you come across. Insect or organism, I guess, is probably a proper way to say it. As you journey through the game. I also got this at the end of the year. Steam sales. They really steal a lot of money from your wallet. Now, the final game on my list is actually one that probably could have been on the list, and that is Persona 4 Arena. There was so many fighting games that came out this year, and to be honest, Persona 4 was probably amongst the best that came out this year. I mean, we had Tekken Tag 2, we had Soul Calibur 5, we had Dead or Alive, Virtua Fighter, Persona, and a lot of them were all great games, but Persona 4 was really good in that it was just, an interesting take on the RPG game that it's based on. But I feel in ways it's kind of limiting in some aspects, like just, I mean, all the characters on there are wonderful. The system is deep. It's probably closest to Guilty Gear since it's made by the same people, and the game is great, but the ones I've picked above it, we'll get into that as to why I picked it over them. And I just want to stress again that this game easily could have been on my top 10 list. Now, diving into the biggest disappointment of the year, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to agree with me. No, it's not Mass Effect 3. Uh, it's Diablo 3. And there's just so much into why. There's so many reasons as to why it's the biggest disappointment of last year. Starting off, let's start off with Era 37. Right there. I complained about it beforehand that I was not a fan of Blizzard's idea of going with always online. I'm still against it to this day. Some of the other issues I still have with this game are actually as I play. There have been many times I've had wonderful gaming experiences, like when I get into a full party and there's a boatload of enemies on the screen. My system doesn't lag. In fact, I'm able to keep up with everything. I can see all the whole massacre on screen. But then there are times when I'm just playing single player and I'm just trying to roam through the story on my own. And the game just for no reason stutters. The enemies don't register hits right away or don't die right away. And the loot doesn't appear right away. And that's one of the big issues. Like, I have a great internet connection and I should not be experiencing random crap like that. And another issue is just the fact that they are really not dedicating themselves to making this a worthwhile experience. They level cap the game off at 60 so they can pull a WoW on it by, forcing you to get the expansions that are going to be coming out, and they just announced one at the end of last year. and probably raise the level cap as they do so, which is honestly stupid. I mean, in my opinion, Diablo 3 was, I mean, story-wise, Diablo 3 is bar none, probably one of the best stories out of last year. I mean, Mass Effect 3, people will disagree with me on this. I actually think Mass Effect 3's story as a whole was great. I thought, uh, well, yeah, Mass Effect 3 was a great story. And why am I suddenly drawing a blank here? Uh, Whatever. Xenoblade Chronicles. There we go. That's that one. That one has a great story for an RPG. But just at gameplay wise, as well, aside from the always online, just felt like Diablo 3 took several steps backwards. One of my biggest issues was the fact that there was a complete lack of character customization. In Diablo 2, you were able to create so many different types of builds with a character. You could take your assassin and have several builds. You can have your little shadow. You can have a shadow build. You can have a bomb build, a trap build. It was the possibilities. There were so many possibilities you can have with each character. In this one, it's like, okay, we're gonna give you a set of skills. This is how many skills you'll have, and yeah, you can mix and match, but you can only use this skill in this slot, this skill in this slot, this skill in this slot, and this skill in this slot. That's it. They cut it down from 8 to 4, practically limiting the way you play the game, but it doesn't matter because the game is dirt easy, except for when you're playing on hell difficulty, which is a pain in the neck in itself. But at that time, I mean, by the time you get to there, I mean, the game's pretty much run its course. It's not that much fun anymore. So, so there you go. That's my big disappointment of the year and my 3 runner-ups. So now let's get into the list real quick. Okay, number 10. Number 10 is Mass Effect 3. And honestly, I couldn't have pictured the trilogy to end in any other way. Yeah, sure, people were upset about the ending, blah blah blah, whatever. I don't care. I actually had nothing wrong. I had no problem with the ending. Um, the extended ending, okay, sure. I mean, that's just the more the merrier to me. But to see the journey finally come to an end for, I guess you could call it the Shepard trilogy, since they do plan to continue without him. Um, I just found it to be so captivating. The combat is practically unchanged from the second game, but yeah, no complaints there. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The thing that caught me off guard the most, and actually was quite pleasing, was the multiplayer. I had a lot of fun playing the multiplayer. The thing I wasn't actually quite sure about why they would add that, but then when they added it, and I finally played several like rounds, and it later became 70 rounds or more. It it grew on me. It was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it immensely. Um, the characters are what makes the game, and everybody in the entire like Mass Effect universe had a standout moment. I thought in the game, starting from Morden to the Grunt to Ashley. I mean, everybody had their moment in this game. I felt, and it's great to know that when you play a game and you continue on that journey with all characters and you see where their journey ends or where they feel it'll trail off into something new, but they leave it mysterious for you. I mean, that just speaks on a whole as to how great Mass Effect 3 was to me. And here's number 9, Xenoblade Chronicles for the Nintendo Wii. Uh, this is honestly a gem. This game, I mean, was one that was been begged to come overseas to the U.S., and it was honestly well worth the wait. The game is breathtakingly gorgeous for a Wii title. I mean, you literally have to do a double take every time you look at it. But that's really just not the whole of it. The gameplay, the way they managed to allow you to play the game, like it almost feels like an MMO if you were able to translate it properly to a Wii using just the Wiimote as a way to go back and forth between multiple actions. Like right here, you have the little action bar, kind of like you have on the hotkey bars on most MMOs on the PC. Then you have, and it's all in real time too, so it's quite a unique combat experience. The world is just huge. I mean, literally, I think this game dwarfs like the majority of RPGs that I've ever played. It literally is on the scale of an MMO. So now the story and the characters in this game are great. I mean, this is one of the few games where you actually it's been a while since I played an RPG where you actually where you felt attached to the characters. In fact, most RPGs lately, I've been wanting to like kill the main character. I've been wanting to like I just stopped caring about this person or that person. Oh, here's a love interest. Yeah, didn't see that coming a mile away. Well, in this game, like the way the characters are drawn out and the way they are set on their paths is very unique. I mean, some of it isn't original. I mean, you've seen some of it before, but like the twist with some of these characters, how they grow, how they interact with each other, it's done very well. And on top of that, it's not just the characters, but the NPCs that you interact with, and like that also goes into the gameplay. Like if you interact more with the NPCs, your relationship with them grows, and you get benefits from that, like prices and all that stuff. Like kind of like in like RPGs like Oblivion, Skyrim, stuff like that, like a haggling system almost. Uh, and I mean, let's be honest, this is just a great game overall, and it's one of the few RPGs that also has a new game plus in this day and age that made me want to play the game again. And I definitely will be playing it probably again real soon. And that's just Xenoblade in a nutshell. So moving on to number 8. Dead or Alive 5 for the PS3 and Xbox 360. Uh, let's be honest. I honestly thought the game was pretty bad within the first 3 days. It was glitchy, the online was horrible, and it just didn't seem fun. Then, of course, those immediate patches came out right away. I mean, I'll be honest, stuff like that shouldn't get out, but it was probably just an accident on Team Ninja's part. So, but what I'm playing now is a fun game. The online is actually great, 10 times better than the online of Dead or Alive 4. Uh, and I hated the avatar and lobby system that was in Dead or Alive 4. This one goes back to more of a Dead or Alive Ultimate uh, lobby where everyone, you just sit there and you wait your turn. The game itself, well, other than the fact that it's just breathtakingly gorgeous, is definitely much improved over DOA 4. Some of the stuff that was just flat out messed up and broken. I mean, I'm a big guy in the fighting game community when it comes to talking about fighting games. Dead or Alive 5 just shats upon DOA 4 in terms of improvements. I mean, it does have some issues here and there, but those are like minor in comparison. I just love the new sidestep system, although it's not perfect. It's definitely a step in the right direction, and it's a great little mechanic that they added. The power blows are fun, nifty little tools that you can use to catch somebody off guard. Well placed hit like here and there for like in case somebody does a missed wake up attack. Then you also have guard breaks in this game. I mean, you had them in DOA 4, but let's be honest, they were useless. And they also have environmental damage. Like the environments in this game are huge. They're actually essential to the game for once, involving more strategy than just straight up mashing, which is what people associate Dead or Alive the Dead or Alive franchise with. Uh, the music was probably the only major disappointment about the game for me. It's mainly forgettable, completely forgettable. I just turn on some of my music off my PC. I stream it off my PC onto my Xbox. That's pretty much what I do. Overall, Dead or Alive 5 is a lot of fun. I actually, as frustrated as I usually have gotten with Dead or Alive 4 when I was feeling like I was at my peak and then I just started dropping competitively, I honestly just don't care anymore. And Dead or Alive 5 is just a fun game for me to play. There's a lot there for anybody, casual and competitive wise, and that's why I think it's a great game. That's why it's number 8 on my list. Number 7 on my list is Terra for the PC. Now, this is an MMORPG that I've been kind of waiting for a long time. A more action-oriented MMORPG with lots of real-time combat, akin to an action RPG. Uh, this one involves probably more strategy than straight up mashing or attacking. You have an assortment of characters that you can select, and then you have an assortment of classes, and the classes are really what makes the game. Of course, you have the casual or the usual, tank, healer, sorcerer, offensive mix, or high damage input character. I guess you can call it the Trinity or whatever for the MMORPG scene. And but then they add a little twist into it with other characters that are more damage prone but can still take a little bit of a beating, kind of like the tanks. You have I've spent probably not as much time as I got this game late into the year, and the fact that it's already on my top 10 list is just proof that how much of an effect it left on me. The game is huge, breathtakingly gorgeous. I have yet to find myself bored with it. Like most MMOs, I stop playing usually after a month. This one I'm still playing. I just resubscribed, as a matter of fact. The combat is fast. The graphics are gorgeous. The music is alright. But whatever. MMO music in an MMO is really not that important. You just blast your music. And I honestly see myself playing this game for quite a bit. It's not often that I actually find an MMO that captivates me like this, but you'll find out that there's been a big surprise for me as well, because this was a great year for MMOs. Now we're gonna move on to number 6. Number 6 is the Great Gianna Sisters' Twisted Dream, a little indie title that came out this year, one I've been waiting for over 20 years. Yeah, that's what I mean, over 20 years. I played the first Great Gianna Sisters game back in 88, 89 on the Commodore Amiga. It was a little platformer game that was obviously a Mario clone, and the reason why I say I've been waiting 20 years is because Nintendo filed a lawsuit against the company who created it and forced them to prevent the making of a sequel. Well, they did make a sequel a few years ago on the DS. I completely forgot about that, and I never got to play it. But then I came across this little gem, the Gianna Sisters Twisted Dream, and I love it. This game is so unique, all the way up from its beautiful graphics to its unique platforming. I'm trying to think of the word I want to use here. Twist, I guess, is the proper word, because literally that's kind of what you do. You play as the main character, Gianna, who is able to, I guess, phase or twist the environment by changing realities, and by doing so, it alters the environment by allowing you to open up either passageways, giving yourself new platforms, helping you solve puzzles, all kinds of really unique stuff that this gimmick can let you do. The challenge is really high. I mean, I've died probably 1,000 times already just playing this game. It's a lot of fun. I'm happy that it actually made it onto Steam, because they were actually on the green light. They were on the green light system for a while, and they made it. So I'm happy. So if you didn't play this game yet, you should definitely check it out. One of the things I like the most is actually the music in this game. There's actually a few tracks that are from the original Gianna Sisters game that were completely remixed, and it just sounds great. And the best part about the music is when you're phasing back and forth between realities, the music changes to whether a quieter tone or a hard rocking tone, and it just sounds so pleasing to the ears. And I really can't stress this enough. I mean, it's a great platformer, a very challenging platformer, and people really need to play this game. Now, moving on to number 5, Now, when I said that this was a great year for fighters, I'm not lying, and this is by far the best fighter this year. That is Virtual Fighter 5 Final Showdown. You can get it on the PS3 or Xbox 360 for $15, and I just don't know where to begin with how great this game is. Virtua Fighter 5 has been one of my favorite fighting franchises for the longest time. I remember playing the first one, which I have on the 32X, and the finally play this game probably at arguably its best form is just a joy. I can't tell you how great I think this game is. It's an honest fighter. What I mean by honest fighter, it means that like there's no gimmicks. There's no well, there are gimmicks, but there are it practically can prove whether or not you're a good player or not. Because quite frankly, everything in this game allows you to show that you can control your opponent. You can control the match. It doesn't have like some kind of random just any kind of random occurrence that could happen, like a counter that a random counter that just suddenly changes the momentum of a match, like in Dead or Alive 5. It's the graphics, while are still dated, are still crisp, are still great to look at. The animation is fluid. The voice acting, I honestly don't give a crap about, because let's be honest, since they were including voices in virtual since the first Virtual Fighter, they're nothing to really gawk at. I mean, you're gonna laugh at them, to be honest. The music, probably the best part about this game, also other than the intense gameplay and the fact that it's online, and the online is probably one of the best. Like it's one of the best online lobby systems for fighter game. The music, I just like the fact that they include the soundtrack for all variations of Virtual Fighter, from 1 to the 5R to 4 Evo. It's nice, and I actually have my soundtrack set to Virtual Fighter 2 right now. Uh, really, again, I'm telling you, it's on the Xbox 360's Live Arcade. It's on PSN. It's only $15, so you really have no excuse to not get this fighting game. So moving on to number 4. This is another surprise right here. The Legend of Grimrock for the PC. This is actually a wonderful game right here. At first, I thought the reason why I wanted to play this game so badly was because it appealed to my nostalgia so much, because I am such a sucker for first person, dungeon crawler games. And then, after the novelty of that nostalgia wore off, I still found myself playing this game and loving this game, and it is a testament to just great gameplay design. And it's a shame that, there aren't more games like this in this day and age. It really harkens back to the era of, like, Baldur's Gate. I mean, sorry, not Baldur's Gate. Eye of the Beholder, and so many other games that came out in the early 90s, late 80s, when this genre was still going, like Wizardry. I mean, they still have Wizardry games that are coming out, but they're kind of morphing into something else. And you have the Etrian Odyssey games that are on the DS. But they don't exactly feel the same. They're more of like a traditional RPG, but in a first-person perspective, whereas this game is literally like just a first-person perspective, but you have, real-time everything going on. It's not just, okay, you move a tile, then enemy over here moves a tile. It's nothing like that. One of the other things I love about this game is the fact that it's actually supported by a community of people who are modding it, you know, giving you a brand new challenge all the time. It's not always the same game. In fact, even if you didn't use mods, the challenge of the game is just there. You can go classic pen and paper mode. You can play the game's default mode where you have an auto map. You can play on higher difficulty levels, and it's just great. I love playing this game so much. Running through the dungeons, facing the various enemies, solving the puzzles, reading the scrolls and the journals left behind, trying to find all the armor pieces, trying to outwit and outmaneuver some of the nasty enemies like giant crabs or spiders or little armies of skeleton warriors. It it is an overall one of my favorite games of the year. And on moving on to number 3, Torchlight 2. Now, everything that Diablo 3 did wrong, Torchlight took it and did it right. The game is offline, but you can still play it online, and it has a LAN mode. It feels more like it has a lot more in common with Diablo 2 than Diablo 3 did with Diablo 2. I feel like I actually have control of what my character can be. Like I can actually, I think I can pretty much create builds with my character. Uh, I love the combat. It's much more fast paced than Torchlight 1. The music is much better. The graphics are a lot better too, and I love how the enemy designs are in this game. They just look wonderful. They really put a lot of effort into this game. I'm actually happy that they didn't just work on an add-on. Runic Games didn't work on just an add-on for multiplayer. I'm actually glad they made a full-blown sequel because this is a great game. Uh, the only complaint I have is the fact that the story is meh. That's the only thing Diablo 3 beats it in. It's the storyline. Torchlight 2 is really just one of those games that I'm really happy to have played this past year. It's actually taken a lot of my time. It's great to find a lot of my friends just hop online, play this game. It can be what you hope to be like maybe a couple hours, ends up being several hours of lots of fun. Uh, there's just so much diversity, so much you can do in this game, so much to kill. The worlds are pretty big and gorgeous to look at as well, and I just can't get enough of it. Uh, but again, there's a couple of other games that are on my list, and let's move on to number 2, which is Guild Wars 2. I I'm not gonna lie, I was a big fan of Guild Wars 1. I loved running around and exploring the world of the first game. Granted, you only had one race to play, but you had several classes and subclasses that allow for a very unique gameplay experience. Whereas this game kind of threw that out the window, gave you several classes, but still kept the core classes in there, and you can select only one now. But that honestly, that wasn't a negative at all. Because what I truly like about this game is just how rewarding it is. I mean, it's a game that lets you play at your own pace. It is a game that lets you play however you want. You can practically configure your characters the way you want to play them. I mean, I'm playing a ranger and I'm playing an engineer. Those are my two characters right now, and I'm just having a boatload of fun with them. I have been spending pretty much the majority of my time actually exploring the game because it's a big world and it's just really gorgeous to look at. On top of that, the game's story and the game's lore is really deep. There's not many MMOs that make me want to explore a game's lore, with exception to Warhammer, which is one of my other favorite MMOs who have come out in the past few years. World of Warcraft, of course, has a great deep lore and it keeps growing with every expansion. But Guild Wars 2 is just a big game, and it's just a big game. It's rewarding. The combat is a lot of fun. It's a game that anyone can play, casual, hardcore. You could pick it up and play it. It's very rewarding in how it pretty much lets you prefer your playstyle. I mean, like I said, I like to explore, and the game does reward you for exploring because you have points of interest and other areas that you can go to, and you get rewarded with experience points, sometimes items. Other times, like if I feel like it, there's like live instances where a bunch of other people can join in and they try to achieve a goal. There's the PvP, which is what the first Guild Wars is most well known for. And then there's Well, and then there's the PvP, which is really huge. You actually have two different kinds of PvP this time around, as opposed to just an arena PvP that you had in the first game. You have heroes, and then you have world of PV. You have a world PvP system. Uh, the world PvP system allows you to actually, fight to gain territory, and it affects your server, kind of like what they had going on in, Warhammer. Uh, then you have Hero PvP, which is just a general PvP system. You get a lot of rewards, battle points, honor points, or whatever they have to reward you, and it's just a lot of fun. And I just really can't stop going on and on about how great Guild Wars 2 is. But I'm gonna have to stop. All right, moving on is probably the game that took me by surprise. It's probably gonna take a lot of people by surprise, and it's probably gonna make a lot of people go, "Huh?" And that game is Flying for the PC. Flying is probably the most artistically beautiful and aesthetically pleasing platformer I have played in years. The game is downright gorgeous. It controls wonderfully. It has an amazing gameplay mechanic, depending on, I guess you can call them birds, that you swap back and forth with. Each of them with a special ability that allows you to accomplish your goals. Um, the challenge is great, and it's extremely rewarding. And one of the things I love to do is actually, after I beat a stage, is to go back and try and better myself, try and see if I can die less, see if I can try and find all the gems, see if I can try and beat the stage without dying, and try and get the unlockable at the very end of this level. Uh, well, it's not much in terms of plot, but like I mentioned, there was a game earlier on my runner-up called Botanicula, but where there isn't a whole lot of dialogue, and there isn't any dialogue in this game, but you understand what's going on, and it's just a great, wonderful game. Probably one of the best parts about this game is just how it captivates you, how it keeps you coming back, how it just keeps you going and going, how you just want to keep playing it no matter what. It's brilliant. It's art. This is one of those games that comes out every now and then that just really catches you off guard, and you just are really at a loss for words. The music in this game is probably some of the best music I've heard in a game in a long time. Uh, although I've heard the soundtrack to Journey, I have to say it's kind of right up there. Although it doesn't have like an emotional effect that Journey has, uh, it's an amazing track. But I, you know what? There you go. There you have it. My pick for the year is Flying. That's my number one game for 2012. I'd like to thank you for sticking around and watching this list. I just want you to know that here at GVN, I have a lot of things coming up, a lot of things in the work, and I hope to bring them to you soon. We will be bringing back the podcast. It will no longer be live, so stick around. That episode, the first episode of the GVN Radio podcast, will be coming soon. Once again, thank you for watching, and Happy New Year.